What is the basis of good digital communication?
Well, basically, I do believe that when we talk about digital communication, we always talk about communication. Therefore, the main point we have to analyze is firstly, to understand, as Vasiljevic in 1967 stated, communication is much more in the ear of the listener than the most of the speakers. Therefore, it's important to remind that when we intend to have content to be introduced in a digital platform, content has to be made by relevant and clear information, because we have to reach the consumer and user by the right philosophy. Therefore, it's important to find the lacking in terms of communication about the target audience we want to reach. Because we have to arrange for brand awareness. It means that company start from when launch into the market a new product from unknown brand, and it means unaware brand, up to recognition brand. It means people understand who you are, and then recalling the brand. That means that you don't need to advise, because your brand, your products, your company is already known. It's the philosophy of the marketing strategy, definitely. And talking about some other tests we have to do when we decide to introduce into the market a product. It's important to have a MOM test, a set of questions to submit to our interview, to our audience. So simple, so very, very easy question in which people cannot lie. MOM 2. It means to talk about their life, not your idea, their past and their future, and not their future, sorry, and the expectation. And therefore, as said before, listen and talk less.
What are the methods, strategies and tools to be considered in digital marketing?
Well, basically, I would say that it's not a business unless you can sell. So the things we have to keep in mind is basically design sprint, so from idea to a prototype, and then design thinking. It means a human approach centered in order to understand the requirement of your potential customer. Humans are by nature a social animal. That means that we try to be connected among us. Therefore, the best way to introduce our company, our products, our service into this market is, of course, the digital platform. Absolutely. First of all, social networks are probably the best due to the interaction that we have today into consumer and company corporate. Just to mention some of the most important, probably we should say Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, WhatsApp, and many others. The things that in common have every single of these social network are probably some important point. Firstly, there is no private page. So the profile is a public page for a corporate. It means that you have to pay. So there is a budget you have to understand and to cover. But it's an advantage, basically, because you have the possibility to index your profile, your company, your products. You can use tools that this social network keep to your disposal, and to reach a huge quantity of people and of course to have the opportunity to arrange advertisement by this kind of social network. There is difference among them. Facebook, for example, is probably the web basin without segmentation. So probably is the best way if you want to launch a product without quality skills. But, for example, LinkedIn is exactly the opposite, because there is an important segmentation and you can reach the right target audience you want to reach. So it's also totally different, the tone inside of this kind of social network. I just would compare them. I would say probably Facebook is the place of the city, LinkedIn is a theater. The tone is completely different. And so the advertisement is in another probably stage. Twitter is the most ascetic. It means that you can reach a large audience of people. Anyway, you can have friends, but you have followers. It means that the best way, if you want to advise the company philosophy, probably Twitter is the best. Instagram is the social network that today is preferred from young people. So if you want to get your company is young oriented, you have to use Instagram to promote company and services and products. Video and photo today is the most common communication. Is much visual than readable. So also the influencer today has the presence inside of this kind of social network. So it depends, as I said before, of our audience we have. Anyway, altogether are important system of communication. We have also other kind of digital communication platform. Email, for example, marketing is very useful when we have a large promotion in a short time. So email together with SMS probably increase the conversion rate very quickly, and so you have immediate selling. Anyway, we have to be sure that content is well done, because it's the first time that the company reach the end user, the potential customer, and not the opposite. So you have to be sure that the content attract your potential customer and to have a connection to the funnel marketing. We have other system of other platform, digital platform. Is the most important probably is also website and SEO. Website is today the window for a company in which you can explain the philosophy of the company, but also your products, your services, and everything. Also in this case it's important the content you insert inside, because also the SEO, the search engine optimization with the keyword allow to the company to rank, to scale the SERP ranking. It means the search engine result page is statistical that people doesn't enter into a website over the third page. So you absolutely have into the second page. And that's the goal of a company today. And as for other platforms, I would also talk about YouTube, which together Instagram, social network Instagram, is probably the most common in the young people. It's very useful to increase also in this case the conversion rate, as YouTube is an immediately available image and advertising, and when company is a young oriented, is the best choice probably. Other kind of platform are, for example, digital platform are, for example, online contests. It's just game that you can use to understand the brand awareness and how your products and services are used. So there are different kind of contests, online contests, in which people can directly to send you something, for example, sign up a newsletter, something like that, or a winner at the end of the game. Finally, I do believe that another important digital platform today is crowdfunding. It's a system of microfinancing which permits to a company to understand if you attract a resource and, of course, a potential customer. The test here is important. It's an easy way because today you can just enter in a website to install to put inside your project and wait if it's a good idea. So the company can have two results, two important results. The first one, the feedback from the market. So if the end user, the consumer could be your next customer. And of course, to find the resource that you need to start with this kind of project.
How could you build good online communities?
Well, basically, today the new commercial strategy states that as the consumer sells your products. It is an important thing because realize how you have to manage digital communication. It's very important, as said before, to find the right content with right information which attract our potential customer. It means that the first step is to understand our objectives and target audience, and then put inside the right content. The content, I do believe, is to be discussed into the company, but also with expert of communication. It's very important. And person in charge into expert of digital platform because they are a good suggestion about. And it's very important when we decide as company to take part in several digital platforms to create interconnection among them and have the same outbound. Otherwise we could disorient the customer and the result could be a move away from our context, and this would be means probably that you have realized you have created just a vanity meters. You are probably a lot of visitors, but you don't have customer. That's not our goal. To do that, there is also some technical suggestion. For example, for website, it's very important to send to SERP, to search engine, the XLM sitemap in order to index with keyword your page. But of course, it's also important the A/B testing. If you have not make the decision about the variant you want to choose, the market could do for you. It means realize to create two different page, for example, a web page, and send. To show to the end user, to customer, to market in the same time. The one who has the conversion rate, the best conversion rate, wins. And then we have another important study we have to do. That's the consumer journey. Is an end-to-end customer experience. So every touching point. Every time customer is in touch with you is the moment to study your customer. It's from the beginning to the end. For example, the first moment could be when customer visit your website or when open your newsletter, then we could have an order. Then we could have sales, post-sales assistance. In every single step, you have information about your customer, and that's the goal, to have the result of this communication. And the target, the goal for company is, of course, to call to the action the customer in order to have a sell, to sell our products, to sell our service.